Do you remember the first time you realized you existed? Not the memory itself, but the feeling of seeing for the first time. The quiet wonder of being aware that you are. Maybe you were 5, maybe 3. You looked at your hands, your reflection, your parents, and something inside whispered, "What am I?" Before that moment, you were not a someone. You were awareness itself, an ocean without borders, a song without a singer. There was no name, no history, no good or bad, just pure being, effortless, infinite, whole. Then something happened. You saw another face looking back at you. A voice called your name. You realized there was an I and a you. That was the first division, the sacred split between heaven and earth, between the ocean and the drop. And in that moment, you began to forget. The Bible whispers of a knowing before birth. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. What does that mean, to be known before being born? It means there was a you before the story of you, before you were taught right from wrong, before your name, your language, your culture. There was something deeper watching, something eternal that didn't need a name to exist. That awareness didn't arrive with your body. It only began looking through it. Like light through a prism, infinite consciousness bent into the spectrum of human experience. And the first color it saw was identity. Every child begins as a mirror, clear, reflective. But soon, others start painting on that mirror. Good boy, bad girl, smart, stubborn, pretty, lazy. Each word leaves a mark, each judgment a stroke of color. Until one day, the mirror no longer reflects light, it reflects only the paint. You start believing that is who you are, and belief, beautiful and dangerous, becomes both the mask and the map of your existence. Do you ever wonder why we cling so tightly to our stories? Why we defend the illusions that cause our suffering? Maybe because to let go of the story feels like dying. But what if dying to the story is the only way to remember the truth? Because long before you were told who you were, something inside already knew. That knowing is older than time. It's the whisper that guided prophets and mystics, the silent watcher that looked through the eyes of Jesus, of Buddha, of every soul that ever awakened. And yet, it's the same awareness looking through you. When you were a child, you didn't yet believe you were separate from the stars. You simply looked up and knew they were part of you. You hadn't learned to name them stars or sky. You just felt the immensity, the living stillness that holds all things. That was the real you, the part that exists before belief, before guilt, before pride, before the mask of identity hardened into me. So who are you really? Not your name, not your memories, not the voice in your head narrating every moment. You are the awareness hearing that voice, the silent observer of all that changes. You are the clear mirror beneath the paint. But the mind forgets. It loves its colors too much. The blues of sadness, the reds of anger, the golds of hope. It fears the blankness underneath, not realizing That blankness is freedom itself. Maybe that's why the verse says, "Before I formed you, I knew you." Because what God knows cannot be forgotten, only hidden. And every pain, every confusion, every question of who am I is not a curse, but a call to remember. When the ocean forgets it's the ocean, it believes it's just a wave. But the moment the wave remembers its source, the sea awakens within it again. And maybe that's what's happening right now. Not the creation of a new self, but the remembrance of an ancient one. So pause. Before the next thought, before the next belief forms in your mind, can you feel it? That silent watcher behind your eyes, that presence that doesn't need a name. That's you. The one God knew before the story began. The one who never forgot, only dreamed. The mind loves mirrors. Every belief you've ever held was a reflection, a way of seeing yourself through the eyes of the world. But no mirror ever shows the whole truth. It bends, it filters, it adds light where there was none, and hides shadow where it was. When you first looked into one, you didn't see yourself. You saw the image of what others had already told you you were. A name, a role, a story. And without realizing it, you believed it. You looked at the reflection and said, "Yes, that's me." But what if the one who said that wasn't really you at all? Every belief is a lens, and the clearer the lens, the easier it is to forget it's even there. You begin to see the world not as it is, but as your beliefs allow you to. The prophets knew this. That's why Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." He didn't tell you to build a kingdom of beliefs. He told you to look beyond them, to strip away every false image until only awareness remained. Buddha called it the illusion of I. Lao Tzu said, "He who defines himself cannot truly know himself." And Jung wrote that, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Different tongues, same truth. Each trying to polish the mirror that had been painted over by centuries of names and meanings. Think of belief like paint on glass. You layer it to create an image, a sense of self. At first, it feels comforting, something to belong to, a pattern to follow. But slowly, the paint thickens. It blocks out the light. And one day you wake up wondering why everything feels dim, even when your life looks bright. Maybe that's why we seek love, power, or purpose. Not because we're empty, but because we've forgotten that the mirror itself was once transparent. There's a story from the Desert Fathers. A young monk asked an elder how to see God. The elder handed him a small mirror covered in dust and said, "Clean it." When the mirror shone again, the monk saw his own face reflected in it. The elder smiled. "Now you see. Now you understand." The dust wasn't evil. It wasn't even wrong. It was just time, the accumulation of belief. To see clearly again, you don't need a new mirror. You just need to remember how to wipe it clean. But here's the paradox. Belief itself isn't the enemy. It's the bridge. The same hand that paints the mask can also remove it. When a belief turns inward, when it stops pointing outward at the world and starts pointing back at the one who holds it, it becomes sacred. Belief becomes remembrance. That's what the mystics meant by faith. Not blind acceptance, but inner alignment. Faith is belief purified by awareness. It's the difference between saying, "I believe in God," and quietly realizing, "I am." Do you ever feel like the person you think you are isn't the one who's truly living your life? Like you're watching yourself from somewhere behind your own eyes? That's the real you, noticing the costume you've been wearing, the awareness behind the act. Every "I am" statement, I am good, I am bad, I am broken, I am enough, is a costume. Some fit better than others, but none are permanent. They all fade with time. But what if, instead of clinging to the costume, you let it fall? What if every belief, every title, every fear was just an echo in the hall of your own mind? And what if behind those echoes there was a silence listening? That silence has no shape, no creed, no doctrine. It is the same silence that existed before the first word of creation, when the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. It is the same silence that breathes between every thought. When you touch it, even for a moment, you remember what Jeremiah meant. Before I formed you, I knew you. Because in that silence, you realize you have always been known, not as a person, but as presence. Not as a role, but as awareness itself. The mirror is still there, but now it's clear again. You can look and finally see through it. The world reflecting back your own light. The illusion doesn't vanish overnight. Beliefs will return, masks will form. But this time, you'll know they are masks. You'll wear them with grace, not fear. Because the one who sees the mask is no longer trapped by it. Somewhere behind thought, behind memory, behind the endless parade of names and roles, there is a stillness, not empty, but unshakable. A presence that notices everything, yet claims nothing. It is neither good nor bad, neither me nor you. It simply is. Mystics have called it the watcher, the witness, the silent eye of awareness. In the Upanishads, it is the Atman, the self that cannot be grasped. In the Christian tradition, it is the spirit hovering over the waters, the same spirit that knew us before form. Even quantum physics whispers of it, the observer that exists before observation. the consciousness that cannot be reduced to neurons alone. It is strange to consider. The mind is constantly trying to narrate itself. Thoughts arrive like guests at a party, each demanding attention. Memories, fears, ambitions all insist they are real. But the silent watcher remains, unaffected. It is aware of the story but never caught in it. It does not judge, it does not forget, it does not cling. In a way, it is the original you, the part of yourself that existed before the first label, before the first belief. Perhaps this is why meditation, silence, and solitude have always been sacred. The sages didn't seek anything new. They sought to remember the watcher behind the story, to see the paint on the mirror, to touch the unchanging beneath the changeable. Rumi once wrote, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep." It is an invitation to awaken to the presence that never sleeps. Notice how often life tries to pull attention outward. The world calls for names, titles, roles, for belief. But even as the mind scrambles to organize and define, the watcher observes silently, laughing softly at the illusion of control. It is here that awareness becomes paradoxical. To see without interference, to know without needing to understand, to exist without owning existence. And in that paradox, something shifts. The constant self-narrative, the "I am this" or "I am that," begins to loosen. The boundaries between thought and observer blur. A subtle recognition arises. The watcher has never been separate. It has always been the stage, the audience, and the actor all at once. Ancient texts often describe this in metaphor. The Tao Te Ching says, "To know that you do not know is the best. To pretend to know when you do not know is a disease." To awaken, one must step back from the disease of identity, from the compulsive grasping at what seems real. The Bible itself echoes the same idea. Be still and know that I am God. It is not a command to act. It is a pointer to the silent presence already here, watching the waves of the mind rise and fall. The silent watcher does not force realization. It does not teach, preach, or demand. It is simply the lens through which all things are known. It is the still point of the turning world, the quiet awareness that observes life's theater while remaining untouched. And yet, paradoxically, it is not apart from the world. It is the world seeing itself, the ocean flowing through every drop, the infinite reflecting itself in the finite. The watcher is you, but not the you think you are. It is the awareness that existed before memory, before form, before belief, and will remain when all forms dissolve. Perhaps this is why some moments feel timeless. The mind may be racing, the body moving through daily routines, but for a fleeting instant, a glance, a breath, a song. Time pauses. The watcher becomes visible. It is as if reality is holding its breath, and for that moment, the truth of existence is unmistakable. There is only awareness, and it has never been born, and it will never die. The silent watcher is not a prize to attain. It is a recognition, a return. Like waking from a long dream, you realize that the character you've been playing was never the self, only the story. And now, even as the story continues, the presence behind it is awake, quietly seeing all, without judgment, without attachment. Behind every wave, the ocean waits. Behind every thought, the silent watcher remains. What if all of existence is just one ocean, and every life, every mind, every story is a single drop remembering itself? Hermetic texts whisper it, as above, so below. Tesla saw it in vibration, in energy, in resonance. The infinite reflected perfectly in the finite. Each wave contains the pattern of the sea. Each drop contains the blueprint of eternity. It's strange to think that the boundaries we cling to, identity, belief, memory, are only temporary currents. The ocean doesn't need the drop to exist. Yet, the drop cannot exist without the ocean. You are both, always, finite and infinite at once. Poets and mystics knew this truth. Rumi wrote of the drop returning to the ocean, and the Tao teaches that water, soft yet unyielding, finds its way to every crevice. Even in the smallest moment of stillness, the drop can recognize itself as the ocean. Awareness expands. The watcher merges with the waves, and the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. Creation is holographic. Every part holds the whole. Every face, every heartbeat, every breath contains the same pattern, the same pulse, the same silent awareness. Perhaps this is why death does not end awareness. The drop returns to the ocean, but the ocean never leaves the drop. The watcher has never been lost. It was simply waiting for the drop to remember. A single wave cannot see the entire sea, but it feels the rhythm, the pull, the depth. So it dances, rises, and falls, not separate, never separate. And in that rhythm, the truth becomes clear. The drop was never alone. The ocean has always been. And you are both, awakening to what you have always been. Somewhere between life and memory, between birth and forgetting, there is a place where the dream ends. Not a place of fear, not of loss, but of recognition. The story of me dissolves, leaving only awareness, the silent watcher, the ocean, the drop. The mystics always spoke of it. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." But perhaps it was not a path to follow, but a recognition of what already was. Buddha described awakening as seeing through the illusion of self. And in quantum whispers, physics hints at consciousness that cannot be contained. The dreamer awakens. The character falls away. The labels, the beliefs, the roles, all fade like mist. What remains is simple, timeless, and complete. I am. The ocean remembers the drop remembers the ocean, and in that remembering, all divisions collapse. Life, death, joy, suffering, they are waves on the same sea, patterns of the same infinite awareness playing with form. Perhaps that is why children ask, "What am I?" They glimpse the eternal before words arrive, before masks and mirrors obscure the view. They feel the pulse of the universe and recognize the truth too early to hold on to it. Even when the body quiets, the story ends. The drop returns to the ocean. The watcher does not vanish. It simply is. It was never separate. Awakening is not gaining something new. It is remembering what has always been. The silence beneath the song, the ocean beneath the wave, the infinite reflected in the finite. And in that final recognition, there is no fear, no striving, no attachment, only the deep, unshakable knowing that everything was never lost, because nothing was ever separate. Perhaps now, at last, the question ceases. What am I? Because you are not a drop, not a name, not a role. You are the ocean. And the ocean has always been awake, remembering itself through every wave it has ever been. This series is intended for reflective and metaphysical exploration. It draws from philosophy, scripture, and mysticism to inspire contemplation and personal insight. It is not a substitute for professional advice in psychology, medicine, or spiritual guidance. Viewer discretion is advised for those sensitive to existential themes.